All right. Good morning. Good morning. I know we're all excited for today. I want to thank you for having your materials ready. It looks like you pulled out the work that we did on Liberty yesterday. And I want to review where we've been with what we're working on and kind of where we're headed so that we can create the foundation for our learning. Now, last Friday, we watched the film America, the Story of Us, Rebels. And we talked about the reasons why people came to America originally from England. And the three reasons we found were religious freedom, to live the life they wanted, and to have a place where they could conduct business and make money, right? Then we also led up to the three significant events that we identified as what led to the beginning of the American Revolution, and that was the colonists refused to pay taxes to Britain. In 1770, a 17-year-old young man was attacked. It was the first documented attack by a British soldier. And his first name was Edward, and we thought that that was the beginning of the Boston Massacre. And then finally we knew, and we learned from the film, that the British soldiers were occupying the colonies, and there were 4,000 soldiers. And yesterday we stood up, and we kind of role-played what that would feel like. We stood one guard next to each learning station. And who remembers, what would be the feeling if that was what was happening in a classroom?
That would be embarrassed.
You would be embarrassed, you would feel
Scared,
you would have
I would feel like I feel that I don't have any private life.
no privacy, no freedom, you just feel scared. And so by demonstrating what they would feel like, we led yesterday into our lesson on the concept of what is liberty and what does that mean to us. Because our essential question in our unit, as we cover these next 6 weeks, is what was really at stake during the American Revolution? What were we fighting for? Because we've learned several significant events in history class, we're going to pull that together by today taking a look at what's known as a primary document. And has anybody ever heard that term, primary document? Thumbs up if you've heard about it. Okay, so we're going to give you a chance just for about 10 or 15 seconds to put your heads together in your group. What do you think a primary document is? Just talk that out for a minute.
It's a real document.
or maybe it's a
Okay, that's what it means.
document that
Okay, eyes up. I know that was a very short share session, and it seems to me that some of you have heard of it, but we're not sure what it means. But let's take a couple guesses. What's a primary document? We're going to start with Emily.
A primary document is like a document that's like the first.
Okay, so it's a first document. Well, let's define document. What is a document, Amal?
I was gonna say a primary.
Nice and loud, honey.
I was gonna say a primary document is like a document before they're writing.
Okay, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. We're kind of trying to create meaning, Gabe.
I think a document is what you want and you write it down.
Okay, a document is something written down in writing, okay? A primary document, this group over here talked about the fact that it's a document from real time, it's real. And so today we're actually going to look at a primary document from the time period that led up to the American Revolution or during the American Revolution. Ms. Westmont's going to pass that out to you. And while she's passing that out, I want you to kind of wrap your heads around this. You're reading a document that somebody read in the 1770s. It's the real thing. So when we talk about primary sources, they're sources directly from that time period. So we're not looking at a history book, we're not looking at what somebody else wrote to tell us about history. We're looking at something that exists from history. Can anybody think of a really important primary document you might have already looked at in history class? The Declaration of Independence. And I know that a lot of our students in the other class talked about the Declaration of Independence. That's a real document that is held in an archive from American history, okay? So what we're going to look at today is a real document of what's called the Liberty Song. And I'm not going to put my singing voice on today. I'm going to read it as a poem. How many of you know all songs start as poems? So I'm going to read this as a poem. The first time you experience this document, I just want you to listen and think. Think about everything we've done with liberty. What does liberty mean to you? What work do we know? What do we know that led to the American Revolution? So you're not going to be writing anything right now. You're just going to be listening, okay? The Liberty Song. Come, join hand in hand, brave Americans all, and rouse your bold hearts at fair liberty's call. No tyrannous acts shall suppress your just claim or stain with dishonor America's name. In freedom we're born, and in freedom we'll live. Our purses are ready, steady, friends, steady. Not as slaves, but as free men, our money we'll give. Our worthy forefathers, let's give them a cheer, to climates unknown did courageously steer. Through oceans to deserts for freedom they came, and dying bequeathed us their freedom and fame. The tree their own hands had to liberty reared, they lived to behold, growing strong and revered. With transport they cried, now our wishes we gain, for our children shall gather the fruits of our pain. Then join hand in hand, brave Americans all, by uniting we stand, by dividing we fall. In so righteous a cause let us hope to succeed, for heaven approves of each generous deed. In freedom we are born, and in freedom we'll live. Our purses are ready, steady, friends, steady. Not as slaves, but as free men, our money we'll give. Now, in today's lesson, you are going to read this several times. The first reading was what I just read to you, just to kind of set that stage. Now I want you to read it on your own silently, but with a very specific goal in mind. I want you to think about our essential question as you read this. What was at stake? What are we fighting for? What's going on? What is this author trying to say? Okay? Yesterday you spent a good deal of time analyzing quotations from famous people and really digging at that vocabulary. Today we're going to do that with this primary document. Okay? We're going to look for evidence on how does this relate to liberty? What are we fighting for? Okay, so as you read it this time, I want to remind you of our annotations that we've used in our class and in other classes. While you're reading it to yourself, you're going to circle any vocabulary words that are unknown to you or that you need to talk about. You're going to highlight anything you want to discuss with your group. And you can underline too if you don't have a highlighter, that's perfectly okay. And then if you have any questions that pop into your mind as you're reading, just jot them in the margin. Okay? So thumbs up if you know what to do. We're not talking yet. Go. Focus. Highlight anything you don't know what it There's no right or wrong answer on this card. You're just reading it and highlighting and circling anything you want to talk about.
and in her brave Americans who stand by divine
Right? Let's go. Right.
and causes the household to succeed, and improve the each
Okay, about 5 more seconds. Okay, go ahead and put your pencils and highlighters down. I see that a few of you didn't get all the way through, but that's okay. That was the second time you've looked at the document. How many of you circled or annotated some things? Good. Okay, excellent. Because we said anything that you needed help with or conversation about, you were going to circle or highlight. What we're going to do now is a third reading of it in our groups or partnerships. And I want to kind of explain here, why do we have you read it so many times, do you think? Why do you think we read it so many times, Melanie? Yeah, because the more we read it, the more we understand it. You know, good readers reread things all the time. Many, many times. And so this is going to be your third reading with partners. Now I'm going to ask that you either choose to work as a group, or within your group you break into partnerships. I will leave it up to you but you have to stay in the group where you are. Okay? And obviously the teachers will come around and work with you as we always do. But what we're trying to do here is to find proof in the text for our thinking and that our understanding of the words that we're unsure of. In conversation, we can clarify those things with our partners. Okay? So one of the things I've learned about doing this is that as you go through this with your partners, what would be a good strategy to use? How might that look? Are you just going to read it in your head, or since you're working with somebody else, how many of you think you should read it out loud? Yeah, you're going to have to do a lot of talking here. So if you're planning on working in a group, and I modeled this with the other classes, you would read each stanza at a time, and then as a group share the words that you circled, and then work toward meaning. Okay? So, thumbs up if you know what to do. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's go through the first one. Okay. Let's try to figure out what you're saying.
I'll do first. No turn. Do you want to read the first one? No tremendous action. What's a stanza? Okay, so go ahead, Alex.
Rouse your whole heart.
Brave.
Brave. Strong. So next to bold, brave or strong.
No eyes
And what is rouse? Rise. Rouse means to rise up, stand up, get excited. So if you're trying to get them excited, you should call it brave. What are you trying to do? Pay attention. You're trying to get them
just claim or things with dishonor or discrimination.
That's what's happening. So the next section where it says no
You could look addiction, you could look it up in a dictionary one day or
See if you guys can figure it out. So let's do rouse together, okay? It says, no tyrannous acts shall suppress. Everybody's pushed out and rouse or break hearts.
It's your turn.
Okay, so you're going to suggest a stand up to
It says, So when the people feel the other there is tyranny. So tyranny is I'll be right there, guys. Stand up. So if I were to summarize the first stanza, stand up.
And then when you're done with that one,
So which stanza are we going to discuss? Okay, did we go through the first one? Okay, so let's just go back together. Yeah. This stanza, what are they trying to do? Join us in the next and rouse your bold heart. What is rouse? Rouse. You should, everybody in the room, what does rouse mean then? So you didn't say you know what it means. So the mouth circle. Raise up, get excited, raise up, stand up. So rouse means to stand up. Being strong. So to rouse or get excited, you're strong heart. Fair liberty. No tyrannous act. What is tyrannous? So let's take out rouse and bold with the words that we created. Come join in. Get excited, stand up. Or strong heart. Fair liberty. Does anyone think that? What are they trying to do? The author is trying to get something to happen in the first place. Stand together, stand up. We're trying to get people, we don't know to stand up for themselves. So they're saying, be brave, stand up for yourselves. But it says, no tyrannous act shall suppress you a just claim. No one will stain with dishonor America's name. So what is tyranny? Is it good or bad? It's bad. How do you know it's bad from the text? Tyrannous. Can everybody say that? Tyrannous. Just. Okay, what is just there? The basis of the word justice. What does that mean? Would you have justice? What is justice? Fairness. So if it says here, let's take out your synonyms here. No evil act. Tyranny is evil. No evil act shall hold down your fair claim, nor will we have dishonor America. Exactly. Dishonor from the text telling the tyranny is evil. So we're not going to let you hold us down. That's what this verse. Whoever wrote this is asking people, we're not going to let you hold us down, right? Okay. So now you know, now go through this next several stanzas, okay? You said tyrannous acts create someone feeling like a bad thing. So what's another way to say a tyrannous act is a good or bad? It's bad, right? And is there something in the text that says it's bad? What is justice? Justice? What is justice? I'm going to give her justice, right? So now take out tyrannous and just with the words we just replaced with. So no evil act shall suppress your fair claim. Suppress means hold down. Okay? So now, bullying act shall hold down your fair claim, nor will we decide on your Does that make sense? I'm really trying to do it. This person needs to hold back. Don't hold yourself back. Obviously, we're leading a game. If you tell someone else that they're trying to do the locals, just trying to get people excited. So, how is he or she doing that? Through calling out bravery. And they're saying, we're not going to bullies. Because your word is and if you regret it, it makes a lot more sense. So, you're thinking about it, how would you summarize that and what the opening of this law is? What do you guys think already? What's its goal? Why do you disagree? I have people have shown me. Rise up, say it again. Okay, so then for what you think is right, and what would you ask? To not let somebody do it, not to let them bully you. So if you combine all those concepts, I think it's so much better. Fair claim. They're claiming one thing, but kind of being so now that sets the tone for what this film is trying to do. They're trying to get you to come together and preach it. Now, okay, so let's go to the chorus. And what I know, so there's just, is there even can you read the chorus? In freedom, we're born.
Or something to be
No, there's nothing in terms of vocabulary there, but did anybody underline something for discussion? What did you underline for circle? Free men, okay. What about not slaves? Why are you talking about slavery here? Okay, slavery did exist during this time for sure.
I don't know.
We're slaves to the king. We don't want to be nominated into the office. We want another person's right. What's that person? Right. I mean, this time, I'm sure it's very bad. Any tricky words would very common for a man to pull out or, a person and get money in it. So if it has money in it, and does the stanza tell us they're willing to do it, or they don't want to do it? Find something in the text. What does that mean? Yeah, it says money will help, so do you want to do it? If they're free. They don't want to be forced, right? But they'll say, well, we are willing to give them money, but we don't want to have to be forced. So what do you think the purpose of the chorus is? It's repeated twice. It's in the beginning and the end. Throughout the whole song, they're going to repeat this. Why would you repeat something? Well, yes, that's what it says. They want to be free. And it's not that they're saying no one has to pay anything. They want, what do they want? Freedom or they want the choice. Freedom makes it free. That's fine. Now, I'm going to leave you guys to do the next paragraph on your own.
So he thinks it's like something being nice too.
I don't believe it. Just put be nice. We'll follow up and see if it's documented. Yeah. Why did you highlight that? So what does it start talking about from the heart? I think it's kind of interesting when you highlight it.
Yeah, what do you think this whole
They don't want to die, right? Oh, you're talking about death? How much here? No, not yet. Not yet. Keep going. Go into the next paragraph and we'll come back to years. Well, let's keep going. You want to skip the next one? Let me read this one. Our worthy forefathers, let's give them a cheer. Climate Sunday, through oceans, 2004 freedom and fame, and dying bequeathed us their freedom and fame. There's two really big words in there. It's about the courageous
our children, and what are your children going to do?
But it says somebody died here, right? So someone had to die to bequeath something.
Perfect.
I'm gonna let you guys analyze this one. If you need to go to dictionary, go for it. Together?
Get together, get it. So our children will get.
Whose hands over you guys on? Okay, forefathers? Freedom. The tree their own hands, that we read and to liberty reared. Okay, is there anything in there anybody struggles with? They live to behold growing strong and revered.
And you guys are stuck on what they're going to
What? Sounds like power, you're revered.
maybe freedom.
Can I read it to you again, because I'm really emotional? Can you tell me what you think revered means after revered? Okay, figure it out what you're going to. The tree their own hands had to liberty reared. I want to explain that. That's what we have a metaphor. It's where you compare liberty, that's right? They're comparing liberty to a tree.
Freedom, those are some ideas. So Josh,
They're not using a simile. Since this is your thing, your figurative language, how would a tree be like liberty?
you know it's the children gather.
What does a tree do? It grows. How would we grow liberty? Can we grow it? They're comparing actually based on language, which is they're actually comparing a tree to the growth of how much liberty. This is perfect for you because this is what you like to study. Let me read it all and then you tell me what you think revere means. Okay, so you can close your eyes if you want to just listen. The trees their own hands have to liberty reared. They live to behold growing strong and revered. With transport they cried, now the wishes we gave, for our children shall gather the fruits of our pain. What do you think revere means?
Okay, who's gonna be
Just guess, because this is a tough one. They might be scared. Revered, strong, brave, closer, strong and brave. Revere means respected. Strong and respected. So write that down. I like how Kenzie wrote a little arrow in the margin. We said strong and respected. I want you guys to talk about something when I walk away here. In that stanza, it says, "For our children shall gather the fruits of our pain." It's kind of figurative, since you're the leader in figurative. I want you to think about this, what this means. What our children shall gather the fruits of our pain.
getting excited? I think it means
Whoa, let's go over it with he's going to bequeath. Okay, could be wanted, and we're dying, they wanted something to fight for? Did you find Give us. Bequeath means what? Give us. By dying to give us their freedom. By death. She said, I think it means to give us. So they died, and they left behind something, right? So the tree was defined. We didn't get them either. Good job.
I think this
Are you guys ready?
Okay, you guys are doing an amazing job. Walking around the room, I see and hear people rereading. I see people writing. I hear discussion. I hear really good thinking about what words could possibly mean. At this back table, we actually came to something that totally stumped them, and they finally just had to say, we don't know, we'll talk about it whole group. So really nice job. What we're gonna do, even though you guys haven't finished, we're gonna start by going through and just talking about the first couple stanzas. Okay? And then we'll see where we are, and depending on time, we may work through finishing this, or we may move on to answering some other questions. Okay? So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna kind of do whole group what you guys have done in your partners and your table groups. So we're gonna go line by line, because there are some things that you guys still have trouble with. Okay? If you have already figured out what the word means, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to go up here on the board. But if there's still a word or a phrase that you guys don't understand, that's what we're gonna share out, and that's what we're gonna talk about whole group. Because maybe Amal figured out something that Melanie struggled with, or vice versa. Right? So looking at that first stanza, come join hand in hand, brave Americans all, and rouse your bold hearts at fair liberty's call. No tyrannous acts shall suppress your just claim, or stain with dishonor America's name. In your groups, was there anything in that first paragraph that you couldn't figure out? Rouse. Rouse, okay. So I'm gonna circle rouse, okay? Virginia.
Trying now.
Tyrannous. All right, so we have rouse, we have tyrannous, Amal.
Bequeath.
Okay, so down here you have the word bequeath.
Oh.
Hang on to that when we get there.
Okay.
And this first one, any other words? Bold. Bold, because you guys were having a discussion about that over here. Bold. Okay. Suppress. Okay. Anything, go ahead.
Dishonor.
Dishonor, okay.
It looks like we're circling everything we discussed, right? Good job.
I know what this one is.
Okay, so if somebody wants to share about one of these words, Kenji, go ahead. What do you know about one of these words?
I think dishonor means not to honor the America's name.
Okay, so Kenji is saying not to honor. Kenji, what about that word dishonor let you know that it was not to honor?
Because this means not and it has honor.
Okay. Not honor. Questions about this still? Okay, so we're not gonna honor America's name. Okay, Emily.
Bold.
Bold, what do you guys think bold would be?
Brave.
Emily, what did you guys think?
I thought strong
Ocean, what did you
and
think?
brave.
Great. Okay, did anyone get anything else?
No. I did. I'm strong.
Strong. Okay, thank you, Virginia. Oh, that's okay. So let's go ahead and read this and see if it makes sense. And rouse your strong hearts at fair liberty's call, and rouse your brave hearts at fair liberty's call.
Yeah.
Does it kind of sound like it's the right kind of word?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a word that's describing what?
Their hearts.
Your hearts. So we needed an adjective to describe our hearts. And so these are both adjectives, so we're on the right track. Okay? Kenji, you had your hand up. Tyrannous. Wait, finish this one. Are we okay with this? Does this make sense to you guys?
Thumbs up if you think that makes sense. Excellent.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll
good.
come back to it because we also have this word rouse, and maybe knowing this word rouse will help us know what bold should be. Okay? Go ahead. Tyrannous, and that's what Kenji had just said too. Tyrannous. What is tyrannous, Kenji?
I think it's bully.
Bully. No tyrannous acts. And I have a question about that. What is tyrannous describing?
Excuse me.
The axe.
The axe. So what could we put in there? Bully is a noun, or it could be a verb, but we need something to describe the axe. Mia.
Terrible.
Terrible. Would you agree with that? Okay, terrible. Natalie, you have your hand up?
Evil.
Evil. Okay.
Great adjectives, guys.
Oops. Okay. What do you think, Emily?
Fearful.
Fearful. Excellent. Because Kenji, when you're being bullied, how do you feel?
Scared.
Scared. You're afraid. Excellent. Emily, you guys work together. Good job. So fearful. Is that what you said? Fearful, right? Okay. As I'm writing this down, you guys feel free to write on your papers too if you haven't written this down. So we have some sort of horrible, terrible, evil, fearful acts that shall suppress your just claim. Okay. We good with tyrannous? Thumbs up?
And just,
Marcy, good with perfect. Okay. We have two more in this paragraph, browse and suppress. What do you think for browse?
Stand up.
Stand up. Natalie, what do you think?
Get excited.
Get excited.
did you call it Sydney?
And happy.
Happy. So let's look at this. And rouse your bold hearts.
And stand up.
So stand up. Tell me again, Natalie, what you said. Get excited. And Sydney, you said happy. I want you to think about these words really quickly. To stand up, to get excited, or happy. Are they the same kinds of words? Happy is what? Happy is how you feel. How you feel. Okay. So it's something you feel, but stand up or get excited is something that you can do. So which one, what are we asking? Are we asking your hearts to do something, or are we asking your hearts, are they feeling?
Feeling.
And rouse your bold hearts. What do we want our hearts to do?
Stand up.
Stand up. We want to do something with them. Okay? So we want them to stand up. We want them to get excited. Mia.
To wake.
To wake up. How did you come up with the word wake up?
Because it says, and rouse your bold hearts, and I thought it would go good with, and wake your bold hearts.
Okay. So you substituted and you think it makes sense. Did any of you look at this word rouse and think it kind of reminds you of like rise? Go ahead, Alex. Max, sorry, Max.
Rouse means like shout.
Something, shout out, get excited, stand up. So we want our hearts to do something. All right, let's tackle the last word in this one, and then we're gonna wrap up really quickly. So suppress. Virginia.
I think suppressed is something like something you knows, like you know something.
You know something?
Yeah.
Okay, so no fearful acts shall know your just claim. Okay, so let's think about that. So I already called on you, Sydney. Actually, I'm gonna call on you, Gilbert, because you brought something up at your group.
To like push,
How did you come up with the word push?
by the word press.
Okay, so we looked at that word suppress, and you guys found a base word. Did anyone else find that base word of press? Okay, so to press, and Gilbert, you said it means push down. So no evil acts shall push down your just claim.
I said break.
You said break, so go ahead, Sydney.
Or hold back.
Hold back, push back, break. You have this just claim that's fair and it's righteous and nobody is gonna push back. No one's gonna hold you back or break you, okay? So, let's write this down really quickly. Break, hold back.
As Ms. Westmont is working with you here, how many of you are realizing how much thinking and work you're doing to understand this poem or song? Yeah. Look how many words we identified and we're able to exchange out with synonyms.
So we have 2 minutes, and what I would like you to do in the next minute, and then we'll come back, is now that we've kind of figured out what these words mean. What, sweetie?
Write it in a sentence.
Well, we probably don't have enough time to write it today, but what I would like you to do is just have a conversation about what is this first stanza about. Come join hand in hand, brave American all, and rouse your bold hearts at their liberty's call. No tyrannous acts shall suppress your just claims or stain with dishonor America's name. What do they want you to do in this first stanza? Talk about it at your groups.
What's the goal of the first stanza? Stand up and be brave. And why do you think that? Stand up for yourself. Come together.
Come join hand in hand, brave Americans on, and rise up and your strong
So once you stand up and be brave, what are you supposed to be?
no fearful acts shall brave justice, claim or
If this was being said to you as a song, what is the singer trying to get you?
that makes
Stand up and be brave. Anybody else?
because it says come join hand in hand, brave Americans all, and rise up your strong hearts. Hearts at their liberty call. Not fearful acts shall pull back your justice claim or stain with not to honor American.
Okay, in order to wrap up today's work, I really appreciate those of you looking my way. We're not quite done yet. We're almost there. Who wants to share out what they think that the author or the singer, if this was a song, is trying to accomplish in that first stanza? Virginia.
Stand up and be brave for that's something that's facing.
Okay. Stand up and be brave to something that's facing us. What else? Kenji? You want to add to that, or was that it? Emily?
It's like all the Americans
To come together. To come together and stand up and be brave. Now, hold on 1 second, okay? We haven't analyzed this entire song yet, so we have a lot of questions that we still need to answer. But if you come back to the original essential question, what are we really fighting for? Can we answer that question yet based on anything we've analyzed so far? How many of you think we could partially answer it? Maybe? How many of you think not? Yeah, I'm thinking right now, we still don't know the answer. We need to analyze and look for evidence on how we can answer that question based on what we do tomorrow. But tomorrow, we're going to start by refocusing the work we're doing today, and I want to tell you where we're headed. We are going to be asking you tomorrow to go back into the text for evidence on when do you think the song was written? How do you know? How do you know when the song was written? What tells you this in the text? The second piece is, who is this song written for? Who's the audience? Who are they trying to rouse up and get brave and be strong? So tomorrow when we analyze the text, Angela, we're going to actually be looking for that evidence. Okay, nice job today, guys. Gather up your materials.